The real reason why the Golden State Warriors let go of Mac McClung. As you all know, Mac McClung was one of the most exciting signings that the Golden State Warriors did this offseason, and unfortunately he was let go just before the season started. So in today's video, we're going to be going through 3 real reasons why Mac McClung was let go by the Golden State Warriors, and also I'll be revealing at the end whether I think that was the right move for the Golden State Warriors or did they make a huge mistake. But let's get to the first real reason, and that reason being they signed better players in Ty Jerome and Jeremy Lamb. Now, as you all know, when it comes to Mac McClung, he doesn't have a lot of NBA experience. He did play for the LA Lakers, but he didn't get a lot of game time over there, and he did play G League for the South Bay Lakers, which he performed very well at. Now, where I do see the biggest difference between letting go of Mac McClung and also signing someone like Jeremy Lamb, for example, is Jeremy Lamb definitely has more experience in the NBA. As you all know, Jeremy Lamb has played for some great teams in the past. He was a part of some great Oklahoma City teams, and he does have a lot of experience when it comes to what he's capable of in the NBA. He is a great shooter and all that, and he also has great defense, and I think that's what's something that Golden State Warriors need. He is a little bit taller as well compared to Mac McClung at 6'5", so he can play that shooting guard and maybe even that small forward position, which really does help him out in the long term. Now, when it came to peak Jeremy Lamb back in 2018-2019, he was actually averaging 15 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and 2.2 assists. So it definitely was, really good to see someone like Jeremy Lamb be picked up by the Golden State Warriors. But compared to Mac McClung, now I don't have to completely agree with it, but where I really do see the difference is Jeremy Lamb just has more NBA experience, and I think Golden State Warriors could use that due to the fact that they lost players such as Gary Payton II, Otto Porter, and JTA. I don't think Golden State Warriors want to take on another young player that needs developing because they already have a lot of that already. They already have players such as Jordan Poole. They also have James Wiseman who's coming up. Moses Moody and Kuminga are now taking over those positions when it comes to Otto Porter and JTA, and I don't think they can use Mac McClung, and they don't want to waste his potential on that. I think it's honestly fantastic to see them sign someone like Jeremy Lamb because I think he is a great player, but this is definitely one of the reasons why I think that Jeremy Lamb was actually chosen over Mac McClung due to the fact that he is able to make an impact now. I think Mac McClung needs some time to get used to the NBA. A lot of people don't know this, but going from G League to NBA is a huge difference. Now, don't get me wrong, G League is a serious comp, but when it comes to compare to NBA, it is a completely different ball game. You're going up against some of the best players in the world, and you are going to have a tough time, especially if you're just new to the NBA. And I don't think Golden State Warriors were willing to give up that time due to the fact that they already have so many young players on their roster. Now, another player that was signed instead of Mac McClung was Ty Jerome. Now, Ty Jerome has already played 3 seasons in the NBA. Last 2 seasons were actually with OKC, which he performed pretty good at. In OKC last season, he actually averaged 7.1 points, 1.6 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. So he put up some pretty good stats, which was fantastic to see. And I think he was a great player for the OKC when he came to being a role player for them and providing a lot. He's a great 3-point shooter, great 2-point shooter as well when it comes to mid-range and inside, and I think he can get the job done. Now, when it comes to Jeremy Lamb as well, he has a great 3-point shooting ability and he's got great defense, and I think Golden State Warriors really love their 3 and D players. They already have them in Klay, they had them in Andrew Wiggins, they also had them in Otto Porter and also Gary Payton II at the time, and I think now they are trying to find replacements and they are perfect for that. Another player that they also did sign is Dante DiVincenzo. I think when it comes to Mac McClung, these are the players that they are going to choose over Mac McClung every day due to the fact that not only do they have NBA experience, but obviously they are 3 and D guys. Reason number 2 why Mac McClung wasn't signed by the Golden State Warriors for the full season is that his position is taken up by Jordan Poole and Steph Curry. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Mac McClung and I would have loved to see him a part of this Golden State Warriors roster, but you are playing behind 2 of some of the best point guards in the league right now. Steph Curry, we need no introduction. Steph Curry is definitely one of the best to ever do it and one of the best in his position. People even call him the best point guard ever, and he does deserve a spot on Mount Rushmore. But when it comes to Steph, there really is no other introduction needed. You can't really take Steph Curry's spot, especially when he averaged last season 25.5 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, and 6.3 assists. I think this is very important to actually understand because when it comes to his position, it's definitely not going to be taken up, and that's something that is difficult, especially giving game time to someone like Mac McClung, who doesn't have any league experience and also, is probably third in the roster spot when it comes to that point guard position. Next, you also have Jordan Poole. Now, Jordan Poole is definitely the second coming to Stephen Curry, which I think is fantastic, and it's great to have someone like him in this roster. But Jordan Poole stands at 6'4", so he is taller than Mac McClung. He also averaged 18.5 points per game last season, also averaging 3.4 rebounds and 4 assists, while also shooting 36% from the three. Now, compared to Mac McClung's percentages and also his stats, Jordan Poole is definitely on a higher, value than Mac McClung, and this is where I see a huge issue. I don't really see Mac McClung, if he did stay with this Golden State Warriors team, getting huge minutes, and I don't really see where they could actually get his minutes from. With everything that is going on, Mac McClung is going to probably ride the bench for most of the season and probably only get garbage minutes if they're down by 40 or if they're up by 40, and that's usually the only time Mac McClung will get to play. So it really is unfair, but unfortunately that's the way it is. There are players that they would pick over Mac McClung, and I think that's definitely what happened. They aren't looking to develop another point guard due to the fact that they already have that in Jordan Poole. But where I do see a little bit of a problem with this is that if Jordan Poole decides to leave next season, if he wants a contract bigger somewhere else and probably doesn't want a roster spot coming off the bench anymore, then Mac McClung probably could have been a good backup. So we will see whether this will actually backfire or not. But I think one of the main reasons why they actually let Mac McClung go is so that don't take away any minutes, not only from Stephen Curry, but Jordan Poole as well. I think it's on Golden State Warriors' mind to keep Jordan Poole at all costs, and I do agree with that. He is such a great player, and it is hard for already to have him come off the bench due to the fact that Jordan Poole could be a starting point guard or even a starting shooting guard in any other team. I think Jordan Poole is going to be playing more point guard position, and also too if Steph Curry's on, due to the fact that Klay Thompson and Dante DiVincenzo now take that second spot. So there really is a lot to it when it comes to Mac McClung being a part of this team, and not just as simple as signing him and letting him ride the bench, because I don't think that's what Mac McClung wants as well. He definitely wants to get minutes and he wants an opportunity to play in the NBA, and I don't think Golden State Warriors could offer him that, and especially due to the fact with everything that is going on. So it is interesting to see, them let go of Mac McClung despite the fact signing someone like Ty Jerome and Jeremy Lamb, and that's probably what you're all thinking. But I think Ty Jerome does play shooting guard, and Jeremy Lamb can play shooting guard and also small forward. And with Mac McClung being so small, it's hard to put him in that two-man position, and he definitely has to play that one. And it is already tough enough for Jordan Poole to get minutes over Steph Curry, and now you add someone like Mac McClung, it's even going to get more difficult. So I do see where they're coming from due to the fact that he won't be able to get a lot of minutes, and he probably won't be satisfied, if he decides to stay with the team long term and just ride the bench. And reason number 3 is the Golden State Warriors are not willing to put up the money for another potential player. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Mac McClung is a great player, and I think he will be fantastic for any other NBA team. But the reason why I think Golden State Warriors weren't willing to actually give him a proper salary is, one, his salary may have been a little bit high, which would have given a lot of bad press when it comes to the amount of luxury tax that the Golden State Warriors already pay. Now, on top of all this, where I really do think this is a huge problem is that, someone like Mac McClung is definitely going to make $3, $4, $5 million a year. But when it comes to the new signings of Ty Jerome and also Jeremy Lamb, they've actually gotten signed for such a smaller deal. I think that is a huge opportunity for Golden State Warriors, and they couldn't pass that up. When it comes to Golden State Warriors, they are very high in the luxury tax, which is a big problem. But on top of all that, where I do see Golden State Warriors picking them over Mac McClung is they don't want another potential or development player in their hands. With players like Gary Payton II leaving, Otto Porter, and also JTA, it's made room for other players to step up, and those players being Jonathan Kuminga and also Moses Moody, and you can include Jordan Poole and James Wiseman. So pretty much the whole second unit is a bunch of young players that are willing to develop, and that Golden State Warriors are willing to develop, and I think adding someone like Mac McClung, it's not just the right fit. There is enough young players and potential players in order to be stars. I think Mac McClung just can't really fill that spot. They need more veteran players coming off the bench, and I think that's one of the reasons why they got someone like Ty Jerome and also Jeremy Lamb, even though they aren't big signings. They definitely can teach the younger players a lot of things, especially Jeremy Lamb, and I do think it is fantastic to get someone like that on your roster. See, Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody haven't really been given a proper chance in the NBA yet. They have played a couple of minutes. Last season, they actually averaged only around 10 to 11 minutes per game, so they weren't getting a whole lot of opportunity to actually showcase their talent. But this season coming up with players such as Gary Payton II, Otto Porter, and all that leaving, it's given them an opportunity to actually prosper and to really show the NBA what they got. And that's what Golden State Warriors have played this whole time. It's time for them to step up, and I think Mac McClung, they don't need another development player, and I think, who they have right now, they are happy with. So there's definitely something on the books and something that was looked into, but when it comes to what was really done about it, Mac McClung was let go in order to make way for more veterans that can teach these other younger players such as Jordan Poole. You also have Jonathan Kuminga, Moody, and Wiseman a thing or two. They already got another couple of veterans from this year's offseason, such as Dante DiVincenzo, who's supposedly looking really, really good, and also JaMychal Green. And I think they were great pickups. Now, Mac McClung was actually the only young pickup out of all the offseason players, and maybe Ty Jerome now is definitely considered a young player, having only played 3 seasons. So on top of the luxury tax problem, there also is that lack of experience that Mac McClung has in the NBA that Golden State Warriors weren't willing to give up. But let's get into the main reason, which is whether I think the Golden State Warriors letting go of Mac McClung was a good or bad idea. Now, I do see a lot of the reasons why they let him go, but I think they could have honestly kept Mac McClung and just keep him on the bench. The reason why I think it would be great to keep someone like Mac McClung is that he can definitely play for their G League team maybe and develop into such a great player. He may not be able to accept a big role right now, but I think Mac McClung would be happy to ride the bench and develop as these other players have. Kuminga has gone through it, Moses Moody has gone through it, Poole, James Wiseman, all these players have gone through that phase where they're not getting a lot of minutes, but they are still developing on their game and becoming greater players as time goes on. And I think it is fantastic to have someone like Mac McClung who has a lot of potential to grow and to get him for such a cheap price. Now, it may not be the price that they got Ty Jerome and also Jeremy Lamb for, which they only signed for, a couple mil each. So pretty much I think their 2 salaries together would have been roughly the same amount Mac McClung was getting if they were to sign him to a full contract deal. And I think because of that, there is that problem. And I do see both sides of the story. But when it comes to potential and what he's capable of doing, I think Mac McClung would have been great for the Golden State Warriors in the future. As you all know, and unfortunate as it is to say, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green are getting older by the day. And there is going to be a time where they're no longer in the NBA and they will have to look for new stars. Now, don't get me wrong, thankfully you got James Wiseman there, Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney, all these great players already there, and it is going to be fantastic to see them really, continue on the dynasty from there. However, I think, having younger players each and every single year will help them develop and will keep the better players there. Jordan Poole, on the other hand, may look to leave this season. I know he is willing to sign or wanting to sign, and I think if he does sign, it would be great. However, we never really know, and it would be great to have a backup, someone like Mac McClung on the back end just in case anything like that happens. So there's something you definitely got to take into account and something that definitely must be looked into before they made a decision like that. But that is completely their decision, guys. When it comes to whether I think it's a good or bad decision, I'd have to go with maybe bad, okay? I'd lean to more towards bad, not in a sense that it was a huge mistake, but I think, Golden State Warriors, it would have been great just to have him just ride the bench, develop into a great player, and I think he would have definitely sold a lot of tickets, even in those off games where he got a little bit of gaming time.